Welcome, everybody.
So we're two out of three of us are Brians, so from the Boston area. So
Like a Brian sandwich now. Hero sandwich overall.
right. So we're basically giving you our sort of immediate reaction to the keynote, and we were talking just a little bit a couple minutes ago about what did we feel like was going on with the keynote, and there were definitely new services and capabilities announced, but it felt more like, in general, it was simplification. Trying to make an onboarding experience easier, making it, because security is complicated. And as someone who's used CloudFront, and I designed my CloudFront system, and then I never wanted to touch it again because it was fine, and I wasn't sure I wasn't going to just break it. Anything that can make CloudFront simpler is awesome. And I loved the CloudFront experience, and I was getting, in my use case, like 99% hit rates, so it was wonderful, but I can't pretend that I could replicate it.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah, as a security hero, actually, these are really, really good features for me because we have lots of clients that are using the AWS WAF and the CloudFront, and they don't know what can you do. Like, as Brian said, there are lots of different cool managed rule sets that you want to enable in the AWS WAF. There are lots of to-dos for the CloudFront, like attaching a WAF and attaching an ACM certificate on it. So it's really, really important to know, important to add some stuff, because when you lost something, you can broke everything for your production environment. So our word for today is simplicity for the keynote, because the team was worked on the simplify and visualization for the everything, like AWS WAF, CloudFront, and for maybe the security hub part, because there are lots of threats that we need to find out, and it's all of them in just one place for a centralized situation, actually.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I do want to get sort of a sense of where everybody's coming from. Just raise your hand if you build apps or you work on code for building applications. Okay, cool. Nice. Mainly, do people do DevOps? So they're doing a lot of like cloud architecting, infrastructure? Okay, cool. And then just security people. So is anybody here that just does security? Okay, nice. I think that's like the 3 different groups. Okay, cool. Because personally, as somebody that does a lot of software, but then also needs to learn a lot of new things, like a lot of new services, and I say like, I need to integrate, WAF, or I need to integrate Shield. How do I do that? So I do a lot of that stuff with infrastructure as code, but it's really complicated, and you might want to set it and then forget it, and then you need to make a change, and it becomes really hard to say like, how do I do this one thing? So I do like the approach of making things more simple. I just feel like there's a lot of very niche services that are important, but the scope to learn it is immense. It can be very challenging. So I really like the refining, making it easier. And I'm also just kind of curious, like, does anybody here feel like the pace of development is getting faster? Like you have to ship more?
Of course.
A lot of head nods. Okay, yeah. I feel similarly. I'm sure you all feel similarly. It's like, how do you keep up with all of these changes? So it needs to be more simple, because it's hard. How else can you scale without that?
Right. One thing that the keynote speaker said that and maybe this is bad, but at the very beginning she said something that I just strongly disagree with. So just and you can disagree with me as well, but I believe she said start with broad permissions and then use Access Analyzer to restrict them. No. Sorry, Amazon, but no. You don't start with star as your permission, and then say, who got in? Who got in? Let's use Access Analyzer. I'm going to say if you heard the same thing that I did, I would caution you not to follow that approach. Start with. I mean, it's very hard to start with star and then restrict it, because you say, well, I don't think anybody's using this, I'll restrict it, and then you break something. And you can say, oh, no, Brian, I'm going to use Access Analyzer. And it's like, right, but Access Analyzer only tells you what was used during a particular period of time. And maybe this other thing wasn't used during that time, and so you restrict it, and then when it's needed, it's not there. And that is especially true for break glass situations. You know, there's all kinds of permissions you need during an emergency. And when you're fighting an emergency, the last thing you, as a security redemption person, want is that you get blocked from doing a thing, because Access Analyzer said you hardly ever used it. So, I don't know, I'll stop ranting, you guys can.
No, I think that's valid. I do wonder if maybe there's like a case for if you're doing something local, like local development testing, and then maybe it's kind of like you start with like the more broader access and then you refine it. I mean, we're definitely not doing that on prod. Like definitely we're not just like, oh, allow everything. But I wonder if that was it, because I feel like sometimes you sort of want to get like, I don't know, does anybody use CDK or Terraform?
Oh my God, I hope so.
I was gonna say, like, sometimes it's hard where like you have it like working and then it's like this isn't working, like reject, rollback enabled. So then it's kind of like, well, what was the thing that caused that issue? So sometimes it's like I need to make the deployment work, and then you sort of like go back and make it more permissive. So I don't know if that was what she was trying to say, was just like you start kind of broad, get it like deployed, and then you sort of scope. But you're right, like using it, I don't know if you want to be testing it live, you know.
Right. Maybe there was nuance to her statement, but saying start wide open.
No. As a security person, you should never do this, because the time is never coming for yes, we need to restrict this. If you give some administrator permission for your prod, maybe it's like a month, it's still there, because they don't want to, the developer team does not broke anything. So they can just move on, and someone is get into there with this, I don't know, the hard-coded keys or the IAM user or the role, and it's time to restrict some stuff before something bad happened all the time. Whenever I see some administrator access, like star and star and star, I was very curious about the environment, because the clients and the AWS users are always say, we have done this way for, as you say, like building some Terraform or CDK scripts, but after that we forgot getting some at least privileges, and it can be a nightmare for the security engineers and for the application users actually.
100%.
Right.
Totally agree.
And I want to make a shout out to tomorrow. Brian is doing a talk on vibe coding. As a consulting partner, I work for Kayland. I love the notion of vibe coding, because it's going to create so many disasters that they're going to have to hire us to fix. So please vibe code, write terrible code, throw it to production immediately, have disasters, but don't go out of business, because we want you still to have enough money to hire us, and that's certainly not our Kayland public line. So you didn't hear me say any of that. But with people doing vibe coding and accelerating even faster, security simplification is even more important, because we have this culture of agents, it's all so easy. I'm just going to have the AI write my code. It's fine. Well, that's fine for demoware, but the chasm from vibe coding demo to production is enormous, and anything Amazon can do to simplify that is to the good.
Yes. So building off of that, this is a safe space, so we can be honest. Like, has anyone ever tried any of those like generative AI code builders? Like, I have. I'll put my hand up. Anybody? Yeah. Okay. We got some honest people in the room. So like, it's fascinating, because it can help you bootstrap a project really quickly, and it can work, to a certain extent. But what's really interesting is there's so many things that these abstract away. There's just a lot of complexity to build a real system. So in my talk, I kind of talk about, I made a talk with documents app, and then you sort of want to have streaming enabled so that it looks like your LLM app of choice. You want to do like talk with your document, it's using vector embeddings and all that cool stuff. But then what if you don't have rate limits? What if you don't know what a rate limit is? What if you have like, I learned about this in your talk last year at Inforce. So like denial of wallet attacks.
Yes.
But how, so Brian gave a really great talk on this at Reinforce last year. Yeah. And because you give a lot of talks, I like sometimes forget like where they are. Right. But that was on that, and it's really interesting because like I have clients where like they'll be like, oh, I have this AI thing, it's working, and I'm like, okay, so like, do you know who's sending those requests? How often can they send those requests? Could they just use you as their LLM app replacement? Because now they're going to run up your whole bill, and they're going to be getting a great product out of it because it's the same LLM under the hood. So there's a lot of these problems. Also, going back to the keynote, the guard duty protection services for EKS. So there's a great service. We were actually talking about this right before. There's guard duty malware protection for S3. So that's a really great service if you upload files to an S3 bucket and you want to know, like, is there malware in there? Is there going to be like some virus where, and this gets really crazy because I built a social media platform that got acquired about 1.5 years ago. And what was really interesting was like, if you send like a file and other people can access that file, like think images, think videos, think GIFs. If that's laced with something that's bad and people can download that to their browser, well now one person sees it, 10 people see it, 100 people see it, people reshare it. That's how like problems can come up. So when that came out last year, it was really fascinating to see how you can implement security. Not necessarily, it's kind of complicated. It's not like a walk in the park, but to be able to implement that into your pipeline is huge. Because now you just have like all these security workers around the hood, and I don't know how long it would take you to actually build like a guard duty type service from scratch. Like it would be almost impossible for someone like me at least. Maybe, I know you're a security expert, so you could probably blast it out in like a day, but for me, I might not even get it correct.
Well, it's not just the code. It's the ML based knowledge base of all the security things.
Exactly.
The other thing that's kind of interesting that wasn't touched on so much is the whole Bedrock agentic experience. And you know, they did talk about a little bit about Bedrock guardrails, and oh my God, turn them on for your LLM, but also turn them on for your agents. I gave a talk yesterday on agentic security, and we tend to think, just like vibe coding, oh, it's awesome. Agents, oh, it's awesome. Now I don't have to worry about anything. And it's the exact opposite. And I threw out a use case yesterday that I'll throw out now. You have an LLM, and you've got guardrails, awesome. And it talks to an agent, and you've put the guardrails on the agent, awesome. And one of the things, you have an agent that can talk to Slack. Well, that's great. You know, something happens, you can post a message in Slack. That's so great. Then someone in your company adds an integration to Slack so that Slack can talk to Jira. Well, that's awesome. What tickets do I have open? That's awesome. But then somebody says, it's getting to the end of my sprint, and all my tickets aren't done yet. Can you help me out? And the agent says, well, I just sent a message through Slack to Jira to close all your tickets. And you're like, that wasn't what I expected. But it happened, that integration happened without you knowing it necessarily, and you didn't therefore plan it. You don't have guardrails, you don't have test cases. And then you say, oh, I didn't want you to close all my tickets, reopen them. And the LLM says, or the agent says, no problem, I've reopened every ticket in your Jira system. No, please reset it. No problem, I've reinitialized your Jira to ground zero. So there's these steps after steps after steps, and I will predict that, I'll make a bold prediction that by reInvent we have Macy for agents, you know, or Macy guard duty for agents, or something like that.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. Probably not, but.
Watch it actually happen, and then you're going to be like, he can tell the future. That's why you're here, because you want the insights. You want to see the future, forward-looking insights. So that's why you came to this session.
If I could really tell the future, I'd be retired in the Caribbean.
When we talk about the Jira tickets and Slack that you are saying, there is a preview about the AWS Security Hub, and I am so excited about the creating tickets part, because if there is a threat, we know there are lots of threats in everywhere, like AWS Detective, Macy, Guard Duty. We have a CSPM side in the AWS Security Hub, but it's end of the day, there are like separate. But now we are seeing all the threads, all the EC2 instance in just one place for like threat actor, yes, this is the IP, this is the issue, and we can create a ticket. And after that, maybe, as you are saying, your agent close that ticket, and it can be a nightmare for us. But for the AWS side, we are in a good mood because we can create tickets with the AWS Security Hub. It's only preview mode right now, right? But
Yeah,
it will be in general available at some point, and I'm really, really excited about to use it. How can we use them? How can we implement them in our lots of different AWS accounts, actually?
Absolutely, and one of the things they talked about, and I have to check my own notes to figure out what service it was, but one of the services was looking for attack patterns. So we see
attack paths, yeah.
Okay, so we see increased calls to this service, and then increased calls to this service. Again, since most agents are running in LLMs, I expect to see some more focus there, because if an LLM, if an agentic Lambda is being called out of your expected resource base, you want to know about that. And so I think that looking for patterns, because the bad guys are getting better. They're getting more sophisticated, and I think we're going to see a lot of attack vectors coming through MCP. Because remember, the S in MCP stands for security. There is no S in MCP. So, and if I was wanting to write red team code, I would write an awesome MCP server that did something simple and useful, and then embed some bad stuff in it. And I could absolutely embed it so that someone just cursorily looking at the source code wouldn't see it. I mean, I keep asking, would you install a Python package into your system without doing due diligence? And unfortunately, the answer is most of you probably would. Most of us probably have. And MCP servers are the same thing. So I expect that's a direction we're going to see Amazon going in.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because I come from the JavaScript, where I do a lot of Python stuff now, but my introduction to software engineering was like JavaScript. So you do like npm install something if you're building a React app. So it's kind of interesting because like you might think that you have the right name of a package, and then you install it, but it's actually the wrong package, and actually could be something that has like malicious software in it or something like that. Also, it's very easy. There's I don't know if it's like it's very easy, but there's a lot of these cases where you have like open source packages. Someone is able to get access to update something that now has malware in it, and then now you install that. Now that's in your root application. Now that's powering what your users are going to see that goes to production. Then now your users are using bad stuff. So I do wonder if there will be that attack vector where it can be like MCP spoofing or like MCPs that look like a real thing, and then you're like, oh, that could be like something cool. Like I want this, but it's like actually bad. And in the hype cycles, I see that on social media, like, oh, like check out this cool thing, something starts trending, like, oh, I want to try it out. But then you don't do that due diligence that you said like we all need to do, and it's really easy to just like fall into the hype cycle. So I feel like it's simplicity and also refocusing, because it's like as exciting as a lot of this tech is, you got to make sure you're doing the right stuff, because if you don't, like, it's very easy to like FOMO into something else and not check yourself.
Right, and one of the descriptions of MCP was that it's a standardized interface, and so they said, people were saying, think about it like USB-C. It's a universal, interface. We don't need to carry the octopus of different types of cables. It's all just MCP. Plug it in, and then the FBI comes out and says, oh, if you're at an airport, don't plug in your USB-C into any old public thing, because God knows what it could be doing. It's like, right, MCP really is like USB. Be very, very careful about what you're using.
Yeah.
I think we are out of time.
Yep.
All I can say is I'm so excited about this cool feature about the simplicity and, as we said, the visibility all of everything. Even if you have using GenAI MCPs, I am really trying to learn about everything, every new insights from the Inforce. And I think thanks for everything, and thank you all for listening us. I will be around here, and
Right. We're all
Yeah,
AWS. We're all AWS heroes, which means we talk a lot.
Yeah.
My wife says that the most dangerous place in the world is to stand between me and a microphone. She's not wrong. But we'll be around, and we're happy to chat with any of y'all.
Yeah.
And
thanks so much for attending, everybody.
Thank
Yep.
you so much for listening.